Hi, everybody. It's Ted. I'm extremely excited to be joined by Linda Kenney Baden, who is, I guess I'd call you a celebrity attorney, just because the high-profile cases that you've done. I see you on my feeds all the time, and I've seen you on TV. So let's first start by telling people when we sort of first met or had contact. It was 2017, right?
Right, right.
And you were representing an extremely high profile client at the time. Tell us about that.
It was Aaron Hernandez, right, in Massachusetts, with a team. Jose Baez, Ron Sullivan, and I, we were three co-counsels. I did all the forensic work, and Aaron Hernandez was being tried for a double homicide in Massachusetts, in Suffolk County, in Boston, after he had already been convicted in Fall River courtroom for a homicide, for a murder. That was at that time on appeal, and we represented Aaron Hernandez, and we had a not guilty verdict on both of the homicide, both of the murder charges.
What's happened to Jose Baez? He used to be in the news all the time. And maybe I'm just missing it. Is he still doing high profile criminal defense work? Is he taking a step back?
Yes. No, no, he absolutely is, but it's mostly federal and it's white collar.
So let's get to the heart of the matter that we're going to talk about today. Yesterday, in a Plymouth, Massachusetts courtroom, one of Karen Reed's civil attorneys announced that they're planning on filing a lawsuit. Boston Herald had a good way of saying it, sort of the who's who of the criminal case. And they're also suing two police departments, the Mass State Police and Canton Police. Quickly, can you explain? You and Alan Jackson have a history.
Right. Alan Jackson was the lead prosecutor in Phil Spector 1 in California, where Phil was charged with the murder of Lana Clarkson. We tried that case. I think I was in the courtroom from April through September in California, and my team got a hung jury. It means the jury could not reach a verdict in that case. And I think Alan was a little bit surprised, but Alan and I have respected each other.
So Alan Jackson had definitely hinted prior to the court case yesterday that this was going to happen. First of all, what's the play here? How do you understand the play?
Well, let me just say that both sides engaged in a press release yesterday, right? Alan Jackson had, through the local attorney, announced this is where they're going. So this was the beginning of war, shall we say, and I've called it the pretrial wars. And the other side did a 25-minute soliloquy as to what their case was, and you heard their whole case. But this was Alan Jackson announcing this is where we're going to go, and kind of putting the judge, Ted, in a bit of a box here. The judge really doesn't want to let these claims in. Why? Because they're gonna upset his trial schedule, right? They're gonna make it impossible for him to settle, which is something he concentrated on yesterday. But I think he has to, because there's something called the entire controversy doctrine. And in many states, such as the state where I practice mostly, New Jersey, that means that anything that's related to the substantive claims of what a counsel brings in a lawsuit, if you have a defense claim, you have to be allowed to bring it in. It has to go into one controversy. It has to go into one court case. So it'd be interesting to see if the judge says, no, 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 go to federal court with those claims. Because federal court may say, no, 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 go back to state court with those claims in the case that you are already in that has a relationship. So that's what's going on here. But this was definitely a warning shot. We're going to take your deposition. Get ready for all the people that he announced that the lawsuit was going to be against.
Yeah, because the named people in the proposed lawsuit that Karen Reed is filing, these aren't even the people who are, it's the O'Keefe family that is suing her for wrongful death. And the other eight individuals are not, or they have not been a party to it.
Right. Right. But she's going to say, look, they have information that leads to me to be, it's not guilty, but not liable in this case because of the other parties that may know something. And including the fact if they don't know something or if there wasn't information preserved, I have a claim against the state of Massachusetts. I have a claim against the town of Canton for not training. And you heard that negligent training, right? Negligent preparation of their officers, negligent collection of evidence, And those are called Monell claims. So that under the law, there's a case Monell that you normally can't sue the state, for instance, the state of Massachusetts. That's who would be in the lawsuit, the state police, unless there's a failure to train, a negligent training. There's some constitutional prohibitions we don't need to get into here. So,
Okay.
but that's
Oh,
what
so
you heard.
that's why they layered that in.
That's why they layer that in so they can ensure. And when they talked about certain people under color of state law individually in their capacity as individuals, that's usually phrased under color of state law in their capacity of individuals. It's a legal pleading which allows them to get into court and not have any constitutional violations.
Okay. And what about the dollar figures? One of the things that I had heard was initially Karen Reed was planning to bring this to federal court, but there, if she's successful, that there's more chance of recovery in state court in terms of the amount of money she might be allocated.
Yeah, the reason why is federal courts tend to limit large judgments once they're given, all right? And and it's unless you have a mass tort litigation or a mass settlement, where state courts tend not to limit the judgment. When the judgment comes down, that tends to be the judgment unless it's completely excessive or shocks the conscience, as they say. And so state courts are usually a little bit easier in terms of keeping a judgment intact. But I would say that federal courts are easier in terms of collections because you go right to the mark. Once you docket and you do all the legal stuff you have to do to have a judgment, the marshals then execute on the judgment. And I've had a situation where I actually executed on a judgment in federal court, and I executed on the bank account of a municipality, preventing people from being paid. And believe me, that gets you your judgment paid right away. So there's trade-offs there.
And with the individuals, how do you, I mean, if people aren't wealthy or they don't have an umbrella policy, how much money is really going to be there? Let's say if she is successful.
Well, you have houses, you have cars, and you have a judgment that exists forevermore. So if you go to sell a house, for instance, she has a right to have a lien on that sale. So it really is intimidating to have a judgment against you. Whether or not you can collect it all is a different story. I assume the bars are going to, no matter what, put their policies in escrow with the court. It's called an interpleader and then say, let me out, let them fight over whatever these monies are. And that's what I assume is going to happen here.
And that's insurance money, correct? Whatever
That
they're,
would be insurance money because it's going to cost the insurance carriers so much money to defend, especially if you have 10 more individual possible recovery plaintiffs here, because they'd be third party plaintiffs. Her bringing a suit would be a third party action of plaintiffs. Defending and going to all those depositions could cost millions and millions of dollars. So I assume at some point that's what the bars are going to do. They're going to take their insurance. The insurance carrier is going to say, "Here, Your Honor, we want to just place this in an escrow account. We're out of there, and then whatever happens to it happens to it."
do you anticipate, or I mean, we can't look into the backroom dealings, but that is this type of case where the civil lawyers, I mean, these are civil lawyers, probably aren't cheap. The amount of work that's going to be involved in this is going to be massive. So is the idea here that, okay, we're going to defend you, but file this counterclaim, and then that is what pays us? Is that part of the thought process of why one of the reasons why they may have done this or are going to do this?
I don't know. I think the thought process is here is Karen Reed is now worth money, right? Her story is worth money. Her book deals are worth money. Advising people is worth money. I think that what they're going to try to do is prevent the O'Keefe family from going after whatever money she can now make as a result of the not guilty verdict. And that's what they're trying to do, trying to limit that. And also, they want to take the depositions of some people in the Massachusetts State Police because I think that case may be worth money or I think to Karen Reed. And what they don't want is they don't want the O'Keefes to get a handle on that. That's what's going on here. And if they have to be in all these depositions as a plaintiff civil lawyer, that's going to cost a fortune. And at some point, lawyers, and I have to tell you this honestly, will say, "Wait a second, I'm only collecting." a third or 40% or whatever it is that Massachusetts allows. And now I have a gazillion hours of time. And they said, they tend to, I always say that lawyers become actually adversarial to their clients because their interest may be in collection of their own money if you're a plaintiff's lawyer, than in certain other aspects. I think Alan Jackson has other reasons to file these suits. And also, remember, every time you file a suit and every time your name is in the media, and I say this as somebody who's done a lot of high profile cases, you as a lawyer become more valuable. Your name gets out there, so other people hire you. So you have to remember that lawyers do come out with advantages that may pay off in the future, so that they may not care about the individual recovery in that case. Someone like Alan Jackson, I don't think the plaintiff's lawyer, Mr. Diller, is going to get that kind of publicity because from what I saw yesterday, I thought initially he started out well, but when he went into the Turtle Boy and they're going to have a conspiracy and all that, I thought that he lost his focus, and I thought he looked, quite frankly, he did a disservice to the O'Keefe family.
Do you think though that was just to get there? They're not talking after court. Of course, AJ and Karen are giving their side of the story. But do you think though that that was all? And I think you alluded to this earlier that that was sort of a reminder that this is what the O'Keefes say happened, and this is the message that they want to make sure that gets out. And, I think we had thousands of people watching our stream yesterday of the civil hearing. So was
I
that
was
sort
one of them.
yeah, was that also sort of a play to the masses?
Yes, absolutely. That was that you heard their case. That's their case. It's not going to get any better. It can only get worse. But that is their case. That's what they intend to prove. And they think that that's what's going to get them a verdict before a jury. Now, remember, you only need six, and I think it's 5 out of 6 in Massachusetts to get a verdict. And the standard only has to be, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just, more likely than not, preponderance of the evidence. And that could be, 50 point, 1 grain of sand above. So, and they're hoping that maybe they'll find jurors that will think that Karen Reed got away with a murder or a manslaughter that she should have been held accountable for. But I don't know how you get past, he wasn't hit by a car. That's what I don't know
Yeah,
how you get past in this case unless you bring Judd Welcher back in with the blue face, and I
yeah,
don't think that went so
the
well.
blue paint. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, Arca still exists,
right.
and they proved to be excellent witnesses in the criminal trial. And uh, do you expect? I mean, most civil cases, from my understanding, get settled, right? They never go to trial. What about
That's
this one?
correct. I think eventually this case is going to be settled. I think eventually what the O'Keefe family is going to have to do, indeed, if those insurance policies are put into a court escrow account, they're going to have to take those and waive any right to have any assets from Karen Reed in the future. I think that that's where this is eventually going, despite all the hoopla. And then Alan will continue with AJ was going to continue on with his case, and he may get a settlement from the town of Canton and the Massachusetts State Police. And I think but that's going to be a while. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next
Yeah, what are we
year.
talking? 5, 10 years?
You're talking probably about within 5 years. I mean, this case is massive. And most civil cases that are massive, I've tried cases that you get a verdict and then you litigate them through the courts, and it's 10 years from the time you file a complaint until the time you actually
Oh.
resolve the case. And then, of course, you have to wait for the money to come in or execute on the judgments in high profile cases.
Yeah, the judge did seem like though, and obviously I think he realized that, there's a lot of time involved in this, but he talked yesterday about what did he say? Like, I can get you on the calendar for, what do you say, October or something like that?
He
I
said
forget
next
what the date
spring.
he says.
Yeah,
I can get you
yeah.
started. We can start this trial, but I think he quickly realized no, not a chance in hell that's happening.
Yeah, the judges want to settle cases. They want to get it off the calendar. And he said, I can get you next spring.
Yep.
There's no
Yeah.
way this case is going to trial next spring. Okay. And I think the whole talk of settlement, that's what you hear in your normal case. We have to, tell your clients about how settlement is good. Well, this is not the normal case. All right. Now, this judge is pretty experienced. We had Michael Del Signor, who does a lot of work up there, says he's
Yep.
usually very fair in his rulings and all. And he was also does criminal and civil, by the way, just as you know, just as an
Yep.
interplay. In the first Aaron Hernandez case, he's the one who set the no bail conditions on Aaron on the first
Oh, no
murder
way.
charge.
Okay.
Yeah, so they do, people were saying, well, why is he going to Brockton? What kind of judge is this? Well, Massachusetts has a rotational schedule, and he's assigned to Plymouth County that has four different courthouses. It used to be Fall River was one of them. Now Wareham, Wareham is actually it's pronounced, but it looks like Wareham is another one that he goes to in Brockton, and I forget what the fourth one is, but the rotational. And you heard him say that he gets assigned to Brockton courthouse next month, but he's going to keep this on the Plymouth County courthouse schedule, probably because of the courtroom, probably because of the massive media
Yeah, it's a nice
and
building. It's a really nice
beautiful.
building in Plymouth. It's night and day compared to the Norfolk County Courthouse, where it's just packed and old and hot in the summer. So it was a pleasant surprise to and in like yesterday. So during Karen Reed's criminal trials, you had all the people who are outside supporting her. Well, yesterday they all came in, and I don't, there might have been room for every single person there just because it's a huge courtroom. So it certainly changed the dynamic of the court hearing, with so many people in there spectating, and then you have tons of people who are watching the stream. Um,
Right. We
what,
actually on Justice Serve TV last night had Jason Grant, who is one of the plaintiffs in the First Amendment lawsuit for the buffer zone. He's the lead plaintiff that won that case, basically. And he was actually seated on the same row, I believe, with the O'Keefes, even though he is a Karen Reed supporter, because there was just room for everybody in that courtroom to be there yesterday, from what I understand.
yeah, one of the questions I want to ask you, which I don't understand, is everything in this case occurred in Norfolk County, right? That's where Canton is. Why is it being heard in Plymouth County?
Because the courts in Massachusetts can specially assign a case to a judge, and that's what they did here. Simple as
Okay.
that. And he's got a lot of experience. He used to be the chief administrative judge of the courts. I think he came off that position to actually go back into doing trial practice. And he just is considered one of the most experienced judges in the county when it comes to both criminal, not in the county, in the state when it comes to both criminal and civil.
What do you anticipate the interest being for the civil proceedings? I mean, yesterday we saw, a good amount of people there. Do you think people will lose interest? Do you think that this will, be similar to the criminal trials where to me it just seemed to kind of grow?
I think this is going to grow. I think that the November 21st hearing, and the clue was the judge said, do you want to be on Zoom? Because you had what, something like 15 attorneys in that courtroom yesterday, right? Some of the attorneys were in the jury box for the bars, and Karen Reed's attorneys were there next to her and behind her, and the O'Keefe attorneys they were like in the front. They were actually in their little table, so to speak, that they're assigned to next to the jury box. But I think it's going to grow, and I think people are looking for anticipation because everyone was asked, "Do you want to do Zoom?" Oh no, we would like to come in person. Oh no, we want to come in person. Quite frankly, I've never seen that. Usually, when you give attorneys the option now to do Zoom, they say Zoom. But this every single hearing is going to be a press conference, and it's going to be advance notice. And by then, remember, the Alan Jackson will have filed his motion. It's actually Damon Seligson, who is the
Yep.
local attorney who's very experienced, who's got that beautiful South African accent, right?
Yes.
You could listen to him all day, unlike my New Jersey accent. But they'll have probably filed their motion because what people don't understand, the judge didn't preclude them from filing that motion. He said, "You're going to do what you have to do, and yeah, I'm going to want it briefed." But they're going to file that motion and they're going to file a brief with regard to why that motion to allow the complaint to be filed, and maybe it will be filed, or maybe it'll just be drafted and be with the motion by then to allow them to file it. And we're going to see a lot more on that November 21st hearing, whether it's the actual complaint filed, whether it's the complaint that they want to file, and the motion brief as to why it can be filed. That tells you right there this is going to go slowly because that's what, 2 months from now,
Yep.
basically. But we're going to see a lot more going on. And I'm sure that in the meantime, Karen Reed is going to continue what she's doing, which is getting herself out there through her documentary or her story that is going to come out. And other people, of course, have already followed suit and said, we have a Karen Reed story, but they really don't. This is the continuation of the Karen Reed story, and we're all involved in it.
Yeah, Karen Reed told me yesterday that her claim has already been written. Um, so I would imagine that that's getting polished, and then we'll probably see it soon.
Right.
So
Right. They didn't say what the count causes of action are without having a draft complaint ready.
no, and is there a chance that the judge can get this? Because he raised, he it seems like, as you said, he had some reservations yesterday about sort of commingling all this. Is there a chance that the judge can say, nope, I'm not taking this under the umbrella of the O'Keefe lawsuit?
Yeah, he could. He could say file your claims in federal court because they're conspiracy claims or 1983 claims. And we're going to have to wait and see how they're actually pled, whether they use any Massachusetts statutes also that would mimic what's called the 42 USC 1983, which is the civil rights claim that they're going to be filing. So they may have a Massachusetts claim that's sort of, that they have, that Damon has, knows about, that is compatible with that. But the judge could do that and then make them go to federal court. But then the federal court is going to say, why are we here when you have a claim down there? But then the federal court can't dismiss them. So there's a chance the judge could do that. I think he's got to allow them to file the complaint. I
Okay.
really think he has to allow them to file the complaint. I think it would be, and if he doesn't, remember they're going to go on. They're going to ask they're going to ask the High Court of Massachusetts for permission to come in to review that to see whether or not that complaint should be filed. And that'll take time. That'll stall proceedings also.
Yep.
But you have to get permission to allow that to happen, to take it up on appeal, the denial of the filing of the complaint.
Anything else that, while I have you, I'm lucky to have you. So, and I know you watched the stream yesterday. I know that you guys have been covering a lot of that you covered the criminal trial.
Yeah,
What
my
else
partner,
should,
my streaming partner, Michael Bryan, actually went to Ken Prague. I mean, you were there more, but he
yeah,
was
I
there
saw him.
20 times from coming from our little stream. We were there the first day. As a matter of fact, he's one of the plaintiffs in the buffer zone. He's one of the people that got stopped by Hardman, and we filed one of the suits.
Yep.
And won,
Yep.
basically, even though they still exist, we won the right to get that buffer zone into a free speech zone, basically, which I think really led to those beautiful photographs at the end about the Karen Reed supporters.
Yeah. No, and us being on the courthouse steps.
You were there all the time.
Yeah, it was 3 years of my life, and now it seems that
The
it's going
rest
to
of your
be
life.
10 more. All right, Linda Kenney Baden, who is, I'm sure most people watching this know you because of just your history in defense work across the country. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can get you back as this case progresses. Anything particular to watch out for other than the filing when it
Uh,
hits?
yeah, what is going to be leaked in the next 2 months, or what is going to be shown in the next 2 months? And you may have some other, Ted, you may end up with the exclusive about what's in that complaint.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't.
I'll be waiting to see that. That'll be one interview I will cancel almost everything for to watch.
All right. Well, if I get that, it's definitely going out there. So just a note to those who may have it. All right. Thank you again, and let's do it. Let's do it again.
Love it. Thanks.